Hello, and welcome to episode 66 of Expertise is Overrated, the podcast that takes the time to answer the questions you didn't know you didn't want the answer to. I'm Vib.
And I'm Sean, and neither of us has any clue what we're talking about.
But we'll maraud straight on.
Can we go... No. Can we go back to having like an awful pause while one of us works out what to say, rather than that joke?
Amazing puns. Well, it's not even a pun, it's just a great joke. I'm so good. I love my words.
Why is maraud not a verb?
To maraud is a verb.
But it's not used. Like marauder.
Because no one really marauds anymore. Not in this country anyway, I don't think.
We off to do a bit of marauding.
Yeah.
I suppose that is a word.
We don't really maraud.
No.
Maybe we should. We should bring it back.
Bring back
marauding.
marauding.
You heard it here first, folks. Bring back marauding.
Have you ever seen the Mitchell and Webb? I think it's Mitchell and Webb sketch about pillaging.
Have I seen the Mitchell and Webb sketch about pillaging?
So
I don't think so.
It's Mitchell and Webb. So I think it's Mitchell and Webb, and it's like a bunch of kids going off to like have a bit of fun, and Dad's like, "Oh, what are you off to do, kids?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, off to do a bit of pillaging." "Oh, pillaging's great. Off you go." But then obviously, I'm trying to think about how to be sensitive about this. Slight trigger warning. Obviously, the historical phrase is rape and pillage. So the whole sketch is David Mitchell dodging around saying that, and then right at the very end, he's like, "Well, don't do the other thing." "Oh no, we're off to do that too. Bye."
Oh,
and it's just
no.
It's really it's not exactly that, but it's I've not done it justice. Go and find it. It's very funny. It's not as good as Are We the Bad Guys, though.
Are We the Bad Guys? It's one of the best sketches I've made.
It's a wild segue. Never mind.
But yeah, so we're not only marauding, we're apparently also pillaging.
Yes, but only pillaging.
Only pillaging. Definitely. Well, we're not even pillaging because I'm sat at my desk, looking at what is yet another really fucking rainy night. This is ridiculous.
It's horrible. It's horrible. My attic is so cold.
One would question why you're in an attic, but okay.
Well, it's because it's where my computer is. I've got like an attic office.
Yes, you do. Boiling in summer, freezing in winter. I know it well.
It's unbelievable.
It's so shit, isn't it? In many ways, I love it, and I love sort of angled ceilings and stuff. And what's that word?
Apexes and
apexes.
No, not apexes. Eaves.
Eaves, that's the one. Eaves. We're doing well. Warming up our language. People will be really confused as well, because we talked about marauding.
No, we're talking about Eve.
And Eve. What? See, it's weird because I always assume that people don't read the title of our episode or don't read the blurb. Who reads the blurb on an episode? It's a great question, isn't it?
Titles I read because it helps me decide which one I'm going to listen to, but blurbs, absolutely not. You got to grab me with your title.
That's a good point. Actually, a podcast like ours, I guess you do probably look at the title because we're a variety podcast, if you wish.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Well,
I was going to go with wildly disorganized, but I like variety.
Yeah, I'm spinning it in our favour. Because we had a discussion a few days ago about how streamers can effectively end up locking themselves into a particular game.
We did. It was an interesting discussion, actually.
Yeah.
People should be more party to our private discussions.
I know, we are very...
Because that's where all the interesting stuff happens.
Yeah, it's true. We save all the shit stuff for podcasts.
We do. No, that was really interesting, though, that conversation.
It's also very true, I think.
A couple of people that I've been watching,
Yeah. I mean... Yeah, I tend to sort of go to certain people for certain things, and when they're not doing that, I'm like, well, what's going on here? Why are you not playing this game or doing this thing? And then with other streamers, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're doing.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? And it's like, it's probably personality driven, but I can't work out what aspect of the personality enables some streamers to be variety streamers and some streamers to not.
It's Yeah, I think it's personality to an extent. It's also just that there are some people I'm like, oh, they're really good at this one game, and that's why I watch them.
True. That's also true.
Anyway, none of this has anything to do with marauding.
No. What are we talking about?
So if you're here for the
today?
marauding and the pillagers wouldn't really work, would it? The Marauders is such a great name for a band of people.
It's so, like, benign.
Yeah.
But also, it's also very, like, 12-year-old boys come up with a gang name. Oh,
yes.
We'll be the Marauders.
Yeah.
And then it apparently just sticks all the way through their time at school.
They're backing it with some cool magic, though, to be fair.
They do. And the alliteration is important, I think.
The alliteration?
The Marauders map.
Oh, the Marauders map. Yeah, sorry. I was like, they're just called the Marauders, aren't they?
The Pillagers map doesn't work.
I thought that I'd missed out that they were called, like, the Mighty Marauders or something like that.
The Mighty Marauders.
Or the Marauding Magicians.
Do you think that so their nicknames, right? Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
That is who we are talking about, yes.
That is who we are talking about, the Marauders from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. But those nicknames had to come about after they became animagi.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when did they make the map? After they became animagi?
Probably. Or they edited it, I guess.
Or they edited it.
It must be magical editing must be a thing.
Because it previously just read James, Sirius, Remus, and
James
and
Potter,
Peter.
Sirius Black. And then they were like, that's not such a good idea. I mean, becoming an animagus is quite difficult. So one imagines, I think it's said in the books, right? They managed it in their 5th year, is that right?
5th year, yeah. They start trying to do it earlier than that, and they crack it in the 5th year.
Yeah. Whereas I think making the Marauders map is much more advanced magic. So
do you think?
Oh, 100%. It magically tracks everybody.
But being animagi is meant to be incredibly complicated as
It's
well.
actually not. I think it's been canonized since it's complicated. It's not hard. If that makes sense.
So it's more like a Polyjuice Potion type thing. Like, you have to get it right, but if you get it right, it's really easy.
Yeah, there's something like you have to hold a particular leaf in your mouth under your tongue for a really long time, and you have to start that under like a particular condition, like a certain full moon or something like that. But I don't think there's anything like... Yeah, I don't think there's anything necessarily too complicated about it.
That makes sense, I suppose. That makes sense.
To be fair, if they were the first ones who worked that out, then that is impressive in its own way.
But they're obviously not.
Well, but you sort of get the impression that other animagi are sort of born animagi, right?
Are they?
A bit like people who can change their appearance, like Tonks, exist, whereas other wizards need to like use spells and stuff.
No, but I'm fairly sure that in the same book that you learn that they cracked it, they talk about how it's a very complicated and dangerous process, and that's why the Ministry regulates it.
Is that why they regulate it? I thought they regulated it because
I think that's the in-universe canon answer for what. Obviously, they actually regulate it so that you don't have like some bloke dressed up as a dog going around attacking people.
Yeah,
but
I think because I think that's the sort of thing that would be taught if it was that easy. I don't know. It's a good question.
I don't know.
Right, let's scrap our original idea. Let's talk about this for an hour.
I always thought that them being, or James and Sirius being able to work out how to become an animagus and teach it to Peter was like one of the things that got held up as how good they were at magic.
That's very interesting.
I might be wrong about that, but that was certainly my belief.
That's very interesting. I don't remember it being painted in that way. But it would make sense, wouldn't it? They can't have been the first to work out how to become an animagus.
No, there's no... But, I mean, McGonagall is an animagus. Are you telling me that they taught McGonagall?
No,
before they were 21.
Right, you're actually going to make me Google something mid-recording. This is crazy.
This is always content. No, I'm not having this. There's absolutely no way that James Potter and Sirius Black, at the age of 14, discover how to become an animagus. I refuse to accept that. And if you quote J.K. Rowling at me, I will get angry.
Professor McGonagall learned how to become an animagus while she was still at Hogwarts! ! It was actually Professor Dumbledore, then a Transfiguration teacher, who taught her how to do this.
Is Dumbledore an animagus?
Dumbledore's everything.
Does he not need to be? Is it one of those things where Dumbledore's like, yeah, I don't need...
So this is on Wizarding World.
Which is what Pottermore became.
Yeah. Why can Professor McGonagall turn into a cat? The 6th of June,
because she's
2021.
an animagus.
So it's unclear. Yeah, you need to be skilled at potions as well as transfiguration to have a chance of being successful. Some of the steps include carrying a single mandrake leaf in your mouth for a month, and if you swallow or remove it, you have to start again. So it's just annoying, right? I think is, yeah. But like so much of actual magic is just kind of tricky.
Do the steps, yeah.
There needs to be a registered Ministry of Magic, as you say.
Yeah.
Just think detailing, what form you take, distinctive markings, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Fewer than 1 in 1,000 witches and wizards have this ability, but it just sounds therefore that it's not a question of skill, more just laziness in a way.
I suspect it's one of those fewer than 1,000 witches and wizards have the ability to be an animagus because fewer than 1 in 1,000 could be bothered to go through the steps.
If it goes wrong, the consequences can be dreadful, including half animal, half human mutations, and there is no known cure for such mistakes.
Yeah, so I knew there was some sort of the ministry regulates the process because it's dangerous.
Yeah. But so then it's impressive that James and Sirius worked it out.
They're also self-taught, which I think with a lot of this stuff.
Therefore, there will have been books.
Underestimate.
Plus, if Dumbledore taught McGonagall, and I don't know if there's evidence for that other than this article, Dumbledore was in on the whole werewolf thing, right? So it would be very him to sort of just lend a hand,
leave the right book lying around type thing.
Yeah, exactly. I could see that.
I think they are meant to have been self-taught. I'm fairly sure Lupin tells Harry that in Prisoner of Azkaban, that it was James and Sirius who worked it out in their 5th year.
Yeah, sure. The same way that Harry was entirely self-taught when it came to a bunch of stuff that Dumbledore clearly just taught him. But yeah,
Dumbledore just pointed him in the right direction.
But it answers the first of our it goes some way to answering the first of the questions that I'd written down. Well, the first, I guess, is who are the Marauders? But
second.
If you don't know who the Marauders are, then what are you doing listening to a podcast 50 minutes in talking about the Marauders?
That's true.
Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, Prongs, that's who they are. Are any of them actually competent wizards? So I guess you're suggesting that James and Sirius canonically are held in the sort of competent wizards category.
I think so. I think that's right.
It's definitely the impression that you're meant to get from the books, right?
Yes, I think it is. Because one of them ends up head boy as well. James?
Is he a head boy?
Serious? One of them is. I'm sure of it.
Over Lupin?
Lupin was a prefect.
Yeah, but see, this is. I was bizarrely thinking about head boys and head girls. Actually, head girls because it was about an article about Suella Braverman, and I was like, how did she ever become head girl? B, it's the inherent elitism on display in the schools in this country that I think are the problem. But that's a whole separate argument.
That's episode 70, right?
Episode 70. Just an assassination of the UK. Yeah. Anyway. But can you become head boy or head girl if you weren't a prefect before? I've never really delved into this. Is that a thing?
That's a very good question. Not at my school.
No, it would seem almost bizarre to do that, I guess.
I also don't know whether or not being head boy or head girl is indicative of being a competent wizard.
Yeah, good question. I guess a lot of them are, but yeah, that's for other
sorry.
reasons.
I've just had another recording cock up. It should be fine to fix. Because I was silent, but it's fine.
Amazing.
It's back working now. I've just had a run of bad recording luck.
Luck, he says.
I'm just shit at this.
Tell the listeners where your file was this morning.
In the Google Drive, where it needed to be.
Mm-hmm. And how did it get into the Google Drive?
Because I put it there.
Mm-hmm. And where did you move it from?
My PC.
Uh-huh. And on the PC, where exactly was it?
In a folder on my desktop.
Mm-hmm. And what shape would one usually assign to this folder?
It's a sort of tumbler glass shape.
Yeah, with a distinctive icon on the front, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been in the recycling.
At least you recycled it. There you go.
Yeah.
Way.
Anyway. Yeah, that was bad.
The whole editing process for the episode that came out today was a bit of a shambles, but hopefully no one will notice. Anyway.
James Potter was head boy. I knew it. And Lily Evans was head girl.
That's bullshit, isn't it?
He was
That's
not
such a plot
prefect.
armor.
It's such plot armor. He was not a prefect, but he was head boy.
Yeah, because Lupin was the prefect, wasn't he?
Lupin was the prefect, yeah, because he was made a prefect to try and rein in James and Sirius.
Did Lupin finish?
School?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, no,
so.
Because when Sirius played that prank on Severus Snape that he got him killed, didn't Snape let slip that Lupin was a werewolf, and therefore didn't Lupin have to leave school?
Ooh.
So Lupin can't have been head boy because he wasn't there.
Oh, that's very good.
So they gave it to the next best person, who obviously wasn't the one who pranked Snape, but the one who rescued
Wasn't the one who tried to kill Snape.
Can we talk about that for a quick second?
It's so bad.
Like, they're canonically assholes, but in the books it's sort of like, 16-year-old boys will be boys. It's an unfortunate saying, but there's some truth in it. Not excusing it, but it just is the way it is. But, yeah, trying to get someone killed is like...
That's bad.
That's very bad. Even for wizarding levels. Well, no, there's like no repercussions is what I don't really get.
Yeah, I think there's an oft-repeated thing about James in particular that's like between when we see him in Snape's memories and turning, like when he married Lily at 21, he does an enormous amount of personal growth and like grows into the role of head boy and stuff like that. I don't think you're meant to believe that ever happened to Sirius. I think he's just a shit the whole way through.
Yeah. In my head canon, there's an element of when Sirius does that to Snape, James kind of just...
Because James rescues Sirius. Not Sirius, Severus.
Yeah. I think there must be an internal... wake up call for James. Like, oh, yeah, this is pretty serious. This is a bit shit. And as you say, I don't think Sirius ever recovers.
And you can absolutely picture Sirius Black sort of to James after the fact being like, oh, come on, it was just a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
And James being like, yeah, but he nearly died.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. So, yeah, we've all got that. We've all got that friend who refuses to grow up.
I wonder if that played a part in the choice of Secret Keeper. I know Sirius convinces the Potters to pick Wormtail. I forget why exactly. But I also think that James probably was like, yeah, actually, I'm quite glad about that because Sirius is such a reckless news cannon.
I know for plot reasons why it isn't, but why is it not just Dumbledore? Do you think there's like a finite limit to the number of secrets that a wizard can keep, and Dumbledore's at his cap because he's the obvious.
To be fair, that might be a thing, as in you can because there's a whole weird lore about being a secret keeper, right? So it's that. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Like, if you're secret of multiple things, does that then somehow compromise the spell? But also, I fully back Dumbledore to just say, you know what, mate? If I start saying yes to you, then everyone's going to ask me, and quite frankly, fuck that.
I'm too old and too tired for this shit.
Also, as Dumbledore, he probably knows that whoever's chosen as the chosen one, the parents are going to have to die. So I think Voldemort entirely banked on someone cocking up.
I've got that sort of if Voldemort had gone after Neville, he would have won theory because of the whole Voldemort only offered Lily the chance to stand aside because Snape asked him to. And it was the choice to stand aside and not stand aside that caused the charm from Lily to Harry that protects Harry and ultimately causes Voldemort's downfall. Whereas if he goes to Frank and Alice Longbottom and doesn't offer Alice the chance to stand aside and just murders her, none of that happens.
Yeah.
Which I hate because it makes Severus Snape more important.
It does make Severus Snape more... Well, it doesn't really, because the whole point of the prophecy is that it was always going to be Harry. It's just Harry likes to think that it could have been Neville, but it couldn't have been Neville. It could only have been Harry.
That is how prophecy works, yes. Like post hoc, it becomes obvious it could only have ever been Harry.
No, even beforehand, because...
It needed to be Harry because it needed to be Lily for the prophecy to work.
No, maybe, but I think it needed to be Harry because Harry is just so much more like Voldemort than Neville ever was. So he was always going to be the pick.
But is Harry only like Voldemort because...
No, but it's explained in the book, right? Like Neville, for example, is a pure blood. Harry is a half blood, even though it gets weird when
That's true.
Different generations. And so Voldemort was like, oh yeah, half blood for sure.
That's true. That is true.
And stuff like that, right?
I think blood purity is like a massive red herring. Like, I don't think it's a thing because you can have like pure blood squibs. So,
it makes no sense. But we know that Voldemort
is an idiot. Yeah,
we know he cared, but then also because he is a half blood. Yeah, he's weird about it. But I just it's so hard to really analyze the protective spell that Lily effectively casts and the way it can be cast. Like, does the stepping aside thing matter? It's hard to know.
I think it does. I'm fairly sure Dumbledore says that it was the choice that mattered. The being given the free choice to stand aside and choosing not to stand aside is what mattered.
That's conjecture, though, isn't it?
Because James does the same thing to save Lily. He flings himself at Voldemort with no hope of survival. But James doesn't protect Lily. It only happens because of the choice that Lily was.
Well, yeah, but there's also no blood bond.
Not sure I agree with that.
I mean, James and Lily are just married. They're not kin.
Yeah, but Harry and James are kin.
Yeah, but we ultimately don't know if there was zero contribution from James to Harry's protection or not.
No, that's very true. But
it's always said to be Lily because it's more romantic that way, I suppose.
Yeah, it's always said to be Lily. You could be right. Actually, it's both of them.
Yeah, but I don't hate that idea of because she was given a choice and chose.
But it's the same thing that... Is it the same thing? Harry chooses to die to save Hogwarts, which is why Hogwarts is protected from Voldemort.
Yeah, because that had to be a choice. That's absolutely right.
He explicitly is told, you come and die or I kill everyone.
But except it's not really a choice, though, because not Voldemort, Dumbledore sort of robs him of the choice.
But it's it is a choice. The fact that what do you mean? We're not talking about the Marauders today, are we?
No, it's a choice. Yeah, but it's a choice because Harry's presented with that, right? Like he sees the memory between Dumbledore and Snape, where it's like you've been raising him to die at the right time, and when you tell Harry Potter that is no longer there for a choice, because he's always going to sacrifice himself because he's Harry bloody Potter.
But it's still a choice. The fact that you'll always choose the same thing doesn't stop it being a choice.
Yeah, but
because a different person in that. Well, this is the problem, right? And is it negated by the fact that Harry doesn't actually die, or does he die?
Yeah, but he come back, because it's the same argument with Lily, I guess. Like she's always going to choose not to live. Yeah, that's a weird way of saying it. She's always going to choose to die to try and save her son.
Yeah, she won't stand aside to allow her son to be killed. That's just not a thing that a parent would do, which Voldemort can't understand. But that doesn't mean that she's not offered a choice.
Yeah, but I guess the same's true of Harry. Yeah,
I think, and these might be fighting words, but I think part of the problem is that Harry Potter is a very good story. It's not necessarily the deepest fantasy world, and it doesn't necessarily hold itself up to as much interrogation as something like Lord of the Rings might.
That's fighting words.
It feels like fighting words.
I think that's tricky. I think Harry Potter is definitely written to be more of a story, but actually, we've discussed it a few times on this channel. It does stand up to a fair bit of scrutiny.
It stands up to a fair bit of scrutiny.
There's plot holes and stuff, but
it does.
You know.
But I think it's helped by the fact that at the end of the day, the answer can be just magic did it, and the way magic works isn't sufficiently explained in the books for that to always be a satisfactory answer. Like if you take Philosopher's Stone as an example, at the end of Philosopher's Stone, everything makes sense and everything is coherent right up until, and then Harry touches Quirrell and Quirrell bursts into flame. And then after there's nothing through the entire book that implies that is the case. It's an absolute Deus Ex Machina, and after the fact, it's explained as, oh well, actually, it's because your mum died for you, and like that love lives on in your skin, so Voldemort can't touch you. And
yeah,
yes, that may well be true, but it's not necessarily a satisfactory resolution to the plot in the moment, because the reader has no way of getting there before the plot gets there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for the story, but I think it's like there's a lot of stuff like that that's just the story, the world isn't fleshed out very much beyond what you get in the books, until you get to like J.K. Rowling's random tweeting about like the fact that wizards used to shit themselves and use vanishing charms on it, which is just, I'm sorry, what? That's sort of what I mean. Like
but that's stuff that was cut out of the actual book, and I think because it became so popular, weird stuff starts happening, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think that Harry Potter, the world building of Harry Potter, is fully.
No, I think that organically cropped up around it.
Yes,
but even with things like this, right, where you're saying, okay, because Lily freely died to save her son, and Dumbledore was referred to as like, oh, a really old magic, but surely this would have happened more. The Wizarding World is very violent.
That's the other thing. Are you telling me that this didn't happen, like, with Grindelwald?
And also what we're saying is that in the Battle of Hogwarts, if Molly dies to Bellatrix's wand, is then Ginny completely impervious to Bellatrix's attacks?
Because I think, again, Bellatrix would have to say to Molly, no, I'm not going to hurt you, you stand aside. Like that being offered and then being given the choice.
I don't know if it has to be that explicit. I don't like it having to be that explicit, but I don't know why.
Know. But you're telling me Lupin or Tonks didn't fling themselves in front of the curse that killed the other one?
Maybe he killed them both at the same time.
Maybe Dolohov is a big fucking deal, but like...
It's like killed off camera. It's the worst way to go.
It's so bad. It's an absolute like gut punch in the books, because you've just been with Fred when Fred dies. And then you like just finish processing that, and then you see you at the same time as Harry see Lupin and Tonks' corpses, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, all the Marauders had to die, right? So
yeah, they absolutely did.
Just to bring it back to Marauders.
All
the Marauders had to die. That's a prophecy for you.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
For narrative purposes, they did, especially because we needed to see Lupin at the end with James and Sirius and Lily.
Yes. Yeah, because Lupin has to say, in a way, Lupin almost has to stand for everyone who dies at the Battle of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And say, no, that's okay. We chose to come. This is what was right. We did what was right. You're right, though. They all had to die.
Yeah. But winding back then a little bit to Godric's Hollow and the fight between Voldemort and the Potters.
Yes.
There's always that suggestion, right? That if James Potter had had his wand, he may have been able to hold his own. Thoughts?
I was thinking about this at dinner, actually, and I don't want the story of what if James Potter had his wand. I want the story of what if James Potter beat the ever-loving shit out of Voldemort with his bare hands.
Yeah, but we've seen that in the films, that Voldemort has a mean slap.
He does have a mean slap. It's true. No, I just
probably would have beat James in a fist fight.
Voldemort is like a scrawny nerd who's not done any physical exercise because he's like, super fit and all of that. And James Potter is the definition of a high school jock who grows up to become a police officer.
You say that,
so is Harry Potter.
But he was a seeker on the Quidditch team. They're renowned for being...
Allow me my joke.
No. I think Voldemort bitch slaps James Potter. So hard that he dies anyway.
That's almost funnier, but I just really like the image of like everyone's like, oh no, Voldemort, he's the most powerful wizard we've ever seen, and James is like, yeah, but he's like puny. I'll just beat him up. That would
actually have been such a cool way to write that scene where Voldemort sees that he's got no wand, he just puts his own wand away and is like, put him up, boy. They just have a fight, like an actual...
they have like a proper Queensberry rules boxing match.
What does McGonagall call it? A bout of muggle dueling.
A bout of muggle dueling. Voldemort conjures swords for them no, if James had his wand, I don't think it makes much of a difference. I think he lasts longer.
Because we've outlined that he's a very competent wizard, right? He's very intelligent, clearly very gifted with magic, because he becomes an animagus. He makes the Marauders map, which is like the most insane magical item we see.
Yeah.
And he's a renowned duelist, I think we are meant to believe.
Well, I think so. Well, he and Lily are meant to have defied Voldemort 3 times. I don't know what that exactly means, but it implies like they were, handy. They're both founding members of the First Order of the Phoenix. So...
yeah, they defied him 3 times. We have no idea what that means, do we?
No, nor what Frank and Atlas Longbottom did, to be fair. But they did as well. But no, I think if James has his wand, you probably get the same outcome at Godric's Hollow, but it probably takes Voldemort longer. I don't think it's as easy. Well, it's obviously not as easy.
See, I think the issue would be, right, that Voldemort's a very aggressive duelist, and I think James would be as well. And so you're trying to fight fire with fire, and I think Voldemort just blows you out the water.
That's
and I don't rate him very highly, as you know.
That was the conversation we had about like sort of the top duelists loads of episodes ago. I think my point, I think, remains is like in terms of raw power, Voldemort is right up there. But
yeah, he just has no sophistication.
He's got no sophistication because for him, Avada Kedavra always works.
Yeah.
So why would you do anything other than that?
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely no style.
And I think James is a little bit similar. In some ways, Harry's quite similar. It's like, we'll just stupefy our way through this situation.
Yeah, it's a very sort of direct approach, which I imagine he does get from James. You're right.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily
it's not ineffective.
Yeah, and I'm not really having a go because ultimately, even in the Ministry of Magic fight, when serious proper adults start to fight with each other, it's very much like that, right? It's Avada Kedavra versus Stupefy, or Avada Kedavra versus Avada Kedavra, and then Dumbledore shows up and just thinks outside the box a little bit,
changes the rules of the fight.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh basically. Yeah, we could have done that.
Well, it's a bit like the duel between McGonagall, Flitwick, and Snape.
Yeah,
as well.
Sheer elegance.
And yeah, there's more to it than just firing beams of light at each other. And part of that, I think, is because being a sideways thinker is going to be more useful. But part of it also is just style, I think.
Oh, style points are important, yeah.
Style points are absolutely important. You're not telling me that anyone in that duel can't cast Avada Kedavra. I suspect they're all capable of it. Although I suppose there's Moody or Barty Crouch Jr.'s quote about having to mean unforgivable curses.
Yeah, and again, if we're talking about style, I think I don't see McGonagall, Sprout, or Flitwick ever using it, regardless of the situation. No. And Snape is obviously not trying to kill them either, so...
Yeah, he's not fighting to kill. At the end of the day.
Which you do have to wonder why they never sort of considered that. But hey, maybe they did, actually, because I guess we never really get to...
You never
interact with them in a deep dive until everything's kind of over and done with. Yeah, but James versus Voldemort, I think that would have been an intriguing duel.
I think the only thing that it might do is give Lily time to get away.
I don't know. I honestly think they would have blown the entire house apart.
Why doesn't Lily disapparate, I guess, is the question. Maybe you
It is a great question.
Maybe you can't disapparate with a baby. That's a really simple answer that I would accept. The charm is, or disapparation, apparition, whatever, is just too stressful for a baby. You shouldn't do it.
I mean, if your alternative is death, I think you'd risk it, no?
I don't know. I've never been in a situation like that, but if you're in a situation where you're trying to protect your child, you're not going to be thinking clearly. So if you've had drummed into your head, don't disapparate with the child. Don't disapparate with the child. They will just splinch, maybe, for example.
But more to the point, I think, she didn't have a wand.
She also didn't have a wand. So there's not really anywhere for her to go. That's probably, you can't disapparate with a wand.
Because she also doesn't try to fight Voldemort or anything like that. So
no, she just pleads with him to go away.
Yeah, so I think James is very competent with it. I think Sirius is always said to be about on par. And I think they're supposed to be slightly ahead of Lupin. It's hard to judge with Lupin because he's always tired because, werewolf.
Yeah.
And he's just much more relaxed.
I don't know. I can't work this out. I really like Lupin. But actually, I think I just really like David Thewlis as an actor.
Yeah.
Is Lupin just a little bit, to use your favourite phrase, is he just a little bit all smoke?
That's my favourite phrase.
What?
Have I ever said that before?
You say it quite. I feel like you say it a lot. What does Lupin ever actually accomplish? He doesn't learn to be an animagus. We don't know. He's probably involved in the creation of the Marauders map. We don't really know how.
I mean, he somehow managed to be an incredibly competent Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, even though he spent most of his life. I think so. He sort of follows the syllabus. He's very knowledgeable about creatures. Certainly, that's all we kind of see.
He's very knowledgeable about creatures.
He teaches a 13-year-old boy how to cast a Patronus charm.
I think that's the biggest feather in his cap. Absolutely. I don't know.
What else do we see him do?
I'm not making a case here. I'm asking the question.
No, I don't disagree with you. There's not huge amounts of evidence. He's obviously an accomplished enough duelist to stand his ground for a long time.
Yeah, he makes it all the way through to book 7, and is clearly a valued and respected senior member of the Order of the Phoenix.
And there's always that question of,
if he wasn't a werewolf as well.
Well, if he wasn't a werewolf, but also if he wasn't a father to like a couple of months old baby, and therefore, as you should know, probably horrifically sleep deprived.
I like this theory. Even more sleep deprived than Lupin usually is.
Yeah, and then Antonin Dolohov just comes across you, and you're like, oh.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Maybe the sort of thought of everlasting sleep doesn't seem so bad. That's a bit dark, but
that was a step too far. But
yeah, I mean, it's hard to know if Lupin is necessarily any worse a wizard than James and Sirius.
I don't think he doesn't get talked about in the same way as those two.
No, I think it's because he wasn't as cheeky.
He's not as remarkable. I sort of think of him as a kind of a Hermione type character. Maybe not quite as talented, but sort of just studious, getting through, doing well, but just hindered by the fact that he's a werewolf.
Yeah. But certainly quite competent.
So, certainly no chump.
I think the harder argument is Wormtail. Is he competent? Is he incompetent? Is he somewhere in the middle?
I think
I've never been able to decide.
I think he's your bog standard, halfway decent wizard. Like, I mean, he's no John Dawlish, but
I forgot that you really love Dawlish.
Just for reasons that even I don't fully understand. No, he's probably like fine. Just fine. He'd do fine.
Because when he becomes an animagus, which we've said is quite impressive.
Which, yeah, especially if you have to hold a leaf in your mouth for a month without swallowing it. That sounds awful.
I know, right? Is it worth it? Especially because you don't get to pick what you become.
Do you not? I was wondering that.
I don't think so. I always thought of it a bit like a demon in the Pullman universe.
His Dark Materials.
Yeah. Like
yeah,
it's just sort of whatever kind of aligns with you in some ways.
You feel like if you've been working on becoming an animagus for like 3 years, and then you finally put all your time and effort into it, and one of you turns into like this massive majestic stag, and the other one turns into a big bear-like dogs, and then the third one is just a rat, you'd be like, do we still want to hang out with this guy?
Don't know. He got the last laugh because
he does live the longest.
And it's like, in some ways, it's the most useful animal that we've seen.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have been able to get to the Shrieking Shack without him.
Exactly. He wouldn't have been able to escape if he had, he turns into a gigantic stag.
Yeah, it's slightly more distinctive, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it goes without saying that he's probably the least competent of the four.
Yeah, I think he's probably average to above average.
Yeah. I mean, McGonagall says as much, right? That he was just riding the coattails of his friends.
Them, yeah. But, I reckon he'd get all acceptables in his OWLs.
Yeah.
Maybe the occasional exceeds expectations in a subject that he was studying with James or Sirius.
Well, there is that scene where he's worried about his Defense Against the Dark Arts exam because he couldn't remember all the features of a werewolf. And the other two are just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You hang out with a werewolf every month.
Yeah, but is that name 3 features of a werewolf and Wormtail can't name all 7 type thing? But also, yeah, that is hilariously stupid.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't. I don't see I don't see werewolves. I just see people.
Oh, fuck off. Fuck off.
Ah, that was so good.
Right, shall we, 45 minutes in, address the question that we
ask the question?
set out to ask? So we've established that they're probably all at least fairly competent,
Yeah.
and 2, if not 3 of them are probably exceptionally competent.
Yeah.
Which one of the 4, I'm going to essentially skip like half the questions I wrote here, which one of the 4 would make for the worst, that is to say best, Death Eater?
It's the most efficacious Death Eater for Voldemort.
As in, who is the worst Marauder to lose if you're the Order of the Phoenix?
I instinctively want to say James, but I'm not convinced it is actually James. What about you? Where does your instinct go?
I instinctively want to say Lupin, but I can only get halfway through that before Sirius pops into my head. But
that's interesting.
I think the devastation of losing Sirius to the Death Eaters would be such a problem for James that everything unravels. But I think Lupin would make for such an effective commander of the werewolf forces, if nothing else.
Does Lupin just get you a better Greyback?
I think Lupin just gets you like a whole army that's...
Yeah. I think that's potentially true.
Because Lupin would be the best of the werewolves, whereas Sirius would just be another very competent Death Eater. Not that there's that many competent Death Eaters.
I think there's an episode, you've got this as a question, I think there's an episode on why are all the Death Eaters so shit.
I think the other problem with either James or Sirius is the minute one of them becomes a Death Eater, Snape will lose his shit.
Well, you see, my James theory is if you get James, do you get Lily?
I don't think you do.
You don't think you do because she's Muggleborn?
No, I don't think you do because Lily has in the brief scenes we see her in the books has made it quite clear she's got a very strong moral compass.
That's true.
Right, she tells Severus to fuck off.
She does.
And like she draws the line. I guess the caveat to that is that obviously James at some point makes her kind of forget about his past, or he's shown such personal growth that she's willing to forgive it and sort of say, we were younger. But I think that her compass is so solid that she wouldn't join James.
I think you're probably right. Where I was going with that was if you get James, then you might get Lily. If you get Lily, then Voldemort has a completely dedicated Snape, and I think those 3 not working together, but like all pointed at the same goal is incredibly useful. But I think you're probably right that you don't actually get Lily.
Yeah, I think if you get Lily because you get James, then you do get Snape, as you say, and I think that wins.
I think that does just
that has to
win you it. A fully dedicated Snape plus James plus Lily, who is herself meant to be phenomenally effective. But I think you could be right about Sirius, actually. I mean, I like the Lupin as a werewolf commander idea. That's quite good. But the impact that either James or Sirius going over has on the other one is probably really hard to overstate. Like they're shown to be so close, like such good friends.
But then we did talk about the nearly killing Snape incident, and James arguably having a sort of, he's a bit of a wrong-un.
Is it he's a bit of a wrong-un, or is it just I need to buck up my attitude because I'm the only one who can rein him in, so if I change the way I behave, he'll change the way he behaves?
Potentially, but I always there's also certain energy, I think, in that relationship. You know how you often have that friend when you're younger who turns out to be a complete and utter moron and just an absolute disaster. And the older you get, the more you're like, you know what, I just can't really be arsed with this anymore. There may be a little bit of that.
Sirius does strike me as, and it's difficult because when we see him, he's been trapped in Azkaban, but he definitely strikes me as someone who really struggled to grow up.
Yeah, but then he also like sends letters to Lily and stuff, and the way that she responded to him was it was very friendly, right? So maybe Sirius is a little bit calmer as well. It's hard. I think there's an argument of if you take either Sirius or James, the other would be so devastated.
Or do you almost dedicate them further to the Order? Like, this is an ideology that's so insidious it even ensnared James, say. So Sirius becomes completely and utterly dedicated to essentially stopping James because he's horrified at the man his friend has become.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's another way it could go.
I think the issue with Sirius is that aside from himself and maybe having a devastating impact on James, you're not adding anything because
you don't get anyone you don't already get.
He's just another really hard hitter.
Also, everyone in Sirius's family is already on that side.
Yeah. Well, that's not true because his brother isn't.
Well, he is until he isn't.
He is until he isn't, yeah, it's true. But then he isn't. And ultimately, Regulus Black is the hero of Harry Potter.
Ooh, that's good. I like that.
It's alright, isn't it?
Don't know that you're...
It's hard to argue with.
It's hard to argue with. I don't like it, but it's hard to argue with.
You could argue it's creature.
I think that might be the actual answer.
Yeah.
Which means it's actually Hermione? Because she's the one who's like, can we treat these like people rather than like things? Anyway.
Yeah, but Regulus was already doing that without thinking
about it.
Regulus
was already doing that without thinking about it. That's true.
Justice for Regulus Arcturus Black.
Justice for R.A., baby.
Okay, well let's put that to one side. So we agreed that Wormtail was not the best choice for Death Eater.
The only argument in favour of Wormtail being the best choice for Death Eater is that Wormtail shows like a really strange streak of loyalty to Voldemort in a way that sort of none of his other followers do. And I don't know how much you get that from any of the other three. Although maybe you could get it from Lupin, actually, if you lean into the werewolf side of things and sort of Voldemort being nice to him about being a werewolf and not having to hide it. And I don't know. I think you're right, though. I don't think Wormtail gets you very much.
See, I think Lupin... It would be such a curveball because I feel Lupin has the sort of patience because, you know,
you could see Lupin coming back and doing a sort of a more convincing Lucius Malfoy, coming back into the fold, becoming a sort of upstanding member of society who struggles with this condition, but is a model for how werewolves should comport themselves with the Wolfsbane potion and all of that, all the while just working and working and working to bring Voldemort back and sort of throw.
But I also sort of feel I could picture the scene where, you know, there's a council that Voldemort is in charge of, and then someone makes a suggestion and Voldemort goes ballistic. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Blah, 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 blah. But I can also see that scene where Lupin would just very kind of be like, now, Tom, you know, if you were to do this, maybe we'd be better off. And Voldemort somehow listening to that. I think Lupin would have that quality to him.
There's especially the way he's portrayed in the films, there's a little bit almost Dumbledore-ish about the way Lupin behaves.
Which is why David Thewlis was such a great cast. He really channeled that so well.
Yeah, I think that's
in a remake of Harry Potter, we should definitely cast David Thewlis as Dumbledore.
No, then. No, we are talking.
I knew you'd appreciate that one.
I want more David Thewlis on my screen.
But not as Ares.
300 just because he's in it. I really like him as Ares up until the last scene.
Wait, he's in 300?
Yeah.
Who's he playing 300?
Just a random Spartan. I'm fairly sure he's in 300.
Really?
Have I invented that? I'm going to have to check this now.
You can think of David Wenham.
I might be thinking of David Wenham. I thought they were both in it.
That's possible.
I don't think he is. I think that
no, I don't think he is either. I think you have made that up.
No, I think I've just got him confused with I think I've just got him confused with David Wenham.
That's
Anyway,
entirely possible. Doesn't really matter that much.
He might be in Rise of an Empire. Anyway,
maybe he was in this. Yeah, but I don't really count that.
That does not count.
I think he'd have some sort of really impactful yet subtle role as a Death Eater.
I think he almost takes on a sort of right hand role, or no, across the streams, but almost a sort of hand of the king role. The kind of actually get shit done behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry.
And I also think a Death Eater Lupin, as in I picture him as slightly sort of darker soul, would probably get on quite well with Snape.
Yes, I could see that.
Not entirely sure why I'm saying that, but I feel that's right.
I could see that. A sort of almost poisons his own relationship with James and Sirius and Peter in memory. You know, they kept forcing me to hide, going along with their japes, all of that, and sort of them almost festering off each other. I'm coming round to the Lupin idea, not because it gets you a big heavy hitter, like you say, but because it gets you someone sort of supremely effective.
Like he is in the Order of the Phoenix, right? He's always sort of just doing his work, but it's quite impactful work.
Yeah, he's not like Kingsley, who's, I tend to assume, the heaviest hitter that the Order can roll out. He's just...
No, it's Dawlish, obviously.
Dawlish isn't in the Order of the Phoenix, though.
Ah, that's what you think.
He's a lone wolf, a sole operator.
He's so deep in cover.
You don't know. Even he has forgotten he's
exactly.
in the Order of the Phoenix.
He's somehow Imperious himself and then forgot his own instructions.
Justice for John Dawlish. No, I'm coming. I like this Lupin idea. I might be convinced by it. You know,
part of it is that it's obviously not Wormtail, and I can't split the difference between James and Sirius. So Lupin's like the only one left.
Lupin. You can. It's very hard to split James and Sirius, but they do kind of just give you another good wizard, whereas Lupin, as you say, gives you something different.
Yeah.
Oh, I've definitely got something stuck in my throat.
Yeah, you can tell you get into the mute button a bit late or whatever, or like leaning back later. So.
Yeah, I'm not getting there. Sorry.
You're getting most of it. And also sort of to your point of if you get James, you get like anti-Sirius and vice versa. You either really galvanize their resolve to rescue the other, or you just get this straight up war between the two that they'll both just die, and then ultimately you've not gained anything.
Yeah, James and Sirius just go to war with each other.
Yeah, like Sirius does with Wormtail, and you know that ended up with a street full of dead Muggles.
Whereas I think if Lupin goes, that might break James and Sirius.
Yeah. Because I think they always sort of begrudgingly admit that he's the best of them all. As a
Sirius
person.
definitely does, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, they almost seem protective of him in a way. Like, they go out of their way to befriend him, etc., etc. And then at the last, if Lupin just turns around and is like, no, I'm throwing my lot in with the guy who thinks that your wife is literal trash.
Yeah.
And actually, I've decided that I hate you and everything that you did for me was full of self-interest. I could see that absolutely ruining them. Yeah, you've convinced me. You've absolutely convinced me, which doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen, and I don't think I even set out to convince anyone of anything. Strangely, maybe that's the key. I was trying to convince myself more than anything.
Just throw the idea. I don't know if you've convinced me or if I've convinced myself, but
I think you might have convinced yourself.
I am convinced that it's Lupin.
I'm also convinced it's Lupin, yeah.
And I keep saying it. I think it's because it gets you something different.
Yeah, I agree. Which is also true of Wormtail, but it's not the kind of different you want.
No.
And ultimately, he became the Death Eater, and he did one thing, which turned out to be everyone's downfall. And then he also died, like, as good as died instantly afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make of that what you will, I guess.
Got very, very little time left, but you've got one last question on the page. Who else, or which other character would have had a devastating impact as a Death Eater?
Well, I'm assuming we have to take Dumbledore off the table.
Have to take Dumbledore.
That would break the universe.
and Harry off the table.
Sorry, I just thought, is there some sort of crazy idea that Dumbledore and Voldemort are the same being somehow? But no, I don't think that makes any sense.
No, and you see them in the same place.
Yeah, but, magic, as we discussed earlier. Magic.
I've got a left wing or left field answer, not a left wing answer. Horace Slughorn.
Horace Slughorn as a Death Eater. All right, sure you're working.
Well, we know that the Death Eaters want to recruit him anyway, because when we meet him in Half-Blood Prince, he's on the run, not because they're trying to kill him, but because they're trying to recruit him. So anyone that the Death Eaters are trying to recruit immediately goes close to the top of the list. But also, he strikes me as someone who just knows a lot. So you get not a Dumbledore character, because I don't think he's nearly as magically talented as Dumbledore, but you get someone with an incredible breadth of knowledge. And in the wizarding world, knowledge is an incredibly powerful and an incredibly dangerous thing.
Yeah, and his influence.
And he has a huge amount of influence. So
he gets you the ministry without even having to work for it, I think.
Especially if he's not an out-and-out Death Eater, but, he's writing letters to the Daily Prophet and all of that.
Yeah, to an extent, I think his issue would be that because he's narcissistic, I could see him getting quite lazy as a Death Eater because, he doesn't get any of the glory. Or maybe he would. Depends how much of the charming Tom Riddle is left in Voldemort at that point.
That's the other thing that we don't know. What's Tom Riddle like in the first Wizarding War?
Yeah.
How much is he the sort of monomaniacal monster that we see in the second?
Yeah. Slughorn's a good shout, I hadn't considered him. He's a great shout.
What were you considering?
Any of the professors obviously would be interesting as Death Eaters. I was wondering, you mentioned before, Kingsley potentially? Because it just ruins the UK government.
That's true. That's true, actually.
But then they'll just have an election and put some other idiot in charge. So I don't know how much of an impact it would have if he killed the PM.
Just bring David Cameron back.
Make him a lord, bring him back. Yeah, easy. Kingsley, he would also just be an absolutely devastating Death Eater.
Yeah.
Who else?
He goes straight to your number 2 most powerful Death Eater slot.
I mean, I guess someone like Ron for reasons we discussed with James and Sirius.
Yeah, I had that thought as well.
Hermione would be quite scary as well.
But Hermione's Muggle-born, which sort of immediately invalidates her.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. She's probably smart enough to hide it, though. Or
I don't know.
not convince.
Not if Lucius Malfoy is still a Death Eater.
Well, I mean, I think Hermione would be able to dispatch him fairly easily.
Hermione gets her slot on the Death Eaters by just going through Lucius Malfoy. I was watching, completely unrelated, I was watching Chamber of Secrets at the weekend. And can we just for a moment deal with the fact that Lucius Malfoy nearly casts Avada Kedavra in Hogwarts at a 12-year-old boy?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It's insane. It's so mental.
It's great with Dumbledore right there, who then also obviously does nothing.
No, it's not in Dumbledore's office.
No, I know, but as if he doesn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so funny.
Dumbledore, who, to be fair, could have very easily just imprisoned Lucius Malfoy in Hogwarts without anyone ever being any the wiser.
Where's Lucius gone? I don't know. Haven't seen him. No, he never made it.
Lucius? Remind me. Lucius. Ah, yes. Long white hair. Cane.
Absolute dickhead.
Yeah.
It's really
Snape, I guess, honorable mention, would have been a devastating Death Eater.
Like an actually
like
dedicated
an actual Death
Snape, rather than a
yeah.
Like Lily again.
Oh, Lily, yeah, Lily was interesting.
Muggle-born problem, but Lily also gets you James, perhaps in a way that James doesn't get you Lily. I think.
Or you do the thing where, if you're Voldemort, you kill Harry. You kill James and you kill Lily, and then you adopt Harry and raise him up to be the baddest of Death Eaters.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's
some sort of bizarre father,
that's
adoptive
a really
son
good idea.
fantasy that Voldemort for some reason has.
Really good, terrifying idea.
Because it's just like, oh, he's missed his father his entire life, so that's what he's doing now. I don't know if that works, but... And it's just the same story. Like, he still sends Harry to Hogwarts when he's 11, but he's just a mega dark wizard.
He's just straight into Slytherin, cuts Draco Malfoy's throat day one, and then just goes from there.
In year 4, when Moody's like, you could point your wands at me and cast Avada Kedavra and I wouldn't feel a thing, and then Harry just does it and kills him. Oh, yeah, there you go.
He told me to. Sorry.
Yeah. Joke's on you, mate.
Right, Rogue Shout. Arthur Weasley.
Nah. It can't happen. It can't happen.
It gets you. I know it's a physical impossibility.
The world would just end.
I really like the Arthur Weasley is an underrated but incredibly powerful wizard theory. Like, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, of course he is.
I'd never really thought it through, but then I saw it on Reddit. Someone was making the case for Arthur Weasley, and I was like, hold on a second. Yeah, no, you're right. He's a big deal. He just has no ambition because he doesn't care. He doesn't want to be ambitious. He wants to go off.
The man had 7 kids and is like entirely unfazed by anything.
Yeah, he just
gets shit done.
He does just get shit done.
I think you turn Arthur Weasley into a Death Eater, and very quickly Voldemort would just disappear.
Arthur Weasley ends up in charge.
Arthur's like, mate, this is too inefficient for me. I'm just gonna take over.
No. What happens is you turn Arthur Weasley into a wizard, and into a Death Eater, and then
rude.
10 days later, the Death Eaters storm the Ministry of Magic with AK-47 and AK-47s and hand grenades. Because Arthur Weasley's like, no, can I introduce you to the power of a semi-automatic machine gun?
That's a great shout. I like that a lot.
Voldemort's like, but we're wizards and we do magic, and Arthur Weasley just redecorates the room that they're in with Lucius Malfoy's brains, and Voldemort's like, "Tell me more."
It's so dark. I love it.
It's just
Why not Molly then?
She doesn't have the interest in
Redecorating the wall with
in
Lucius Malfoy's
redecorating the
brains.
wall.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think Molly is a very good shout as well.
I think it would break everybody if Molly became a Death Eater.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think all of the professors would be terrible, right? McGonagall, well, that's terrible. Flitwick, ditto. Sprout, probably as well. Just everyone dies of poisoning. But there's just something really, really funny about it being Arthur Weasley and him entirely redefining wizard warfare.
It would be hilarious. Drive-by shootings. Hey, hilarious. In quotation marks.
I shouldn't joke, but have you heard of Arthur Weasley's talking to Voldemort? Have you heard of the real IRA? Because there's some things there we could learn.
Yeah. Oh god, it'd be terrifying.
I really like.
I hate that's devastating somehow.
I like the kit because it turns out that the way to be an effective Death Eater is to just not be like a particularly powerful wizard. Just think differently.
Just be like, have you heard of explosives?
Like
and sniper
imagine.
rifles. But then we know the wand is faster than the gun, so I don't think you're right.
Sure. Imagine the Reducto curse, but you don't have to be there. You could do 3 at once, wherever you wanted.
I think a good wizard could anyway.
No,
I was going to say, well, a rogue shout, and I think it could have actually happened in some ways, would be Grindelwald.
Yeah, I could see that. When Voldemort goes to his prison,
yeah.
What if he releases him rather than killing him?
Yeah. Except at that point, he's so emaciated and over it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Grindelwald gets you a Dumbledore killer. Or a Dumbledore stopper.
Yeah.
Or at least the chance of one.
Which we'll find that in the next Fantastic Beasts. Oh, wait.
Oh. What a shame.
Well, I maintain that the reverse would have been way more terrifying, with Grindelwald in charge and a young Voldemort at his side.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, that's absolutely right.
Then the world just ends.
There's a Grindelwald versus Dumbledore, not Dumbledore, Voldemort episode in our future, I think. Why is Grindelwald so much scarier?
It's vision, I think.
It's vision. It's vision and passion.
There you go. Episode done. Well done, us. Concise for once.
I think that's a good bombshell on which to end 2 episodes at once.
Yeah, you got a twofer, everybody. Enjoy.
All that remains is for us to say thanks for listening to this episode of Expertise is Overrated. No doubt, we've said some things that were either objectively wrong or downright offensive. As ever, feel free to let us know. Rate the podcast and leave us a comment, or drop us an email at expertiseisoverrated@gmail.com. Tweet us at @0expertise. Check out our website, expertiseisoverrated.podbean.com, or come join us on our Discord server.
If you're lucky, we might just argue with you in one of our upcoming episodes. If you're really lucky, we might call you an idiot. Come back next time for some more absolute nonsense.